Namaste friends. Today I wanted to make a very quick video on Twitter in regards to Netflix and some of the things to be aware of as to how the system of the media works and how it's used for mind control, subliminal messaging, and essentially to shape our society. There's very many layers to the Netflix and popular media issue, but let's start at the basics. So 90% of the media is controlled by about 6 corporations. When you follow the money and you follow the ownership, it all leads back to the globalist billionaire structure. And all of these media, mainstream media systems like Netflix, Hotstar, and Hulu are essentially arms of propaganda. And there are many layers and many forms of propaganda. The reason that they're so hard on anti-Hinduism is because it goes against communism. Because someone who is enlightened, someone who comes to seek the answers within through whether it's our yogic Vedic systems, will free themselves of the bondage, if we actually do it, the bondage of media and the control over the mind. Now, why do they want to control your mind? Well, the reason is because then they can influence how you behave and they can influence the reality you create. One thing we need to understand is everything is a collective consciousness, which means we are creating reality with our mind, with our visualization. What we see around us as matter is actually vibration, and we can have a tangible impact on matter with our mind. Now, there is a reason that all this knowledge is hidden or even called a pseudoscience, and now we have the new age spirituality movement, which is also a form of controlled opposition, because the elites want to control the narrative of absolutely everything, so you never find out the truth. And so the reason they put all these horrific things on the media is twofold. Firstly, to keep you detached from your spirit. Secondly, of course, it's misinformation and the power to control your mind and control reality through you. Now, what is the solution to this? Now, the first thing is to understand that all mass media most of it is 90% of it is either false or it's controlled opposition. Controlled opposition is kind of half truth and half falsity. Like, for example, the documentary The Social Dilemma, again, that was a psyop. And what is a psyop? It's a psychological operation. And if you want to understand more about this, you need to understand one thing called Operation Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird was a project conducted by the CIA to understand how to control people's minds through the television. And I quote, "We will know that our campaign on the American public is complete when everything they believe is false." We also know many things about Joseph Goebbels, who was the propaganda minister, and the whole science of propaganda is something which has been implemented for many decades. And we are just starting to realize as to what detrimental impact this has had on our mind, on our society, the influence on children, the influence on our mental health and well-being from consuming media, which harms us and takes us away from our spiritual nature and takes us away from truth. And secondly, fools us into believing we know something instead of actually doing our own research, which can only come through independent research away from mainstream media. The second thing so by becoming aware of these agendas and making other people aware of these agendas, you can slowly help people unplug from the matrix that is the mainstream media. The second thing to be aware of is spiritually, how do we protect our energy and not feed that whatever that timeline, that reality which they are trying to do. Now, we have so many sophisticated systems, but it's actually very simple. Just these words: I do not consent. I do not consent to any energies, agendas, or situations which do not serve my best and highest purpose. And learn how to kind of like release the attachment, because the more you feed something, the more power you give it. So boycott Netflix, stand up, speak up, delete the platform, but take back your own energy, because you are a powerful human being.